town was Kazimierz. It was built by the King Kazimierz the Great, who, by the way, was he was the one who invited all the Jewish people from Western Europe after the persecutions in Western Europe, in England, France, Spain, Germany, Italy. He was the one who invited Jews to Poland, and we say that thanks to him we had such a big Jewish community here in Europe before in Poland before the war, because it was the biggest Jewish community in whole Europe. 3.5 million Jews lived here before World War II. By the way, from the movie, from the Schindler's List, you can remember Amon Good, the commandant of the camp of Płaszów, who just before the liquidation of the ghetto said, what King Kazimierz started in the 14th century will be finished today, which means King Kazimierz the Great, invited Jews to come here. Amon Good, Nazis were going to, get rid of Jews living here. King Kazimierz built this town, but he didn't build it really for Jewish people. He just built it because, the reason was very simple: money. The king said, this town, Krakow, is already too small, because it was too small. There were many merchants coming here to settle down in Krakow, because Krakow had very good privileges for them. Finally, the king said, this is too small, we should build one more town next to the capital. If we build one more town here, there will be more people coming. More people come, more people live here, more people make money, they sell, they buy different goods. If more people make money, more people pay taxes. If more people pay taxes, the king has more money. So this was the reason why the town was built. It wasn't really built for any special, community. Initially it was just a town with the city walls. You can see remnants of the city walls here, medieval city walls. It was town with market square, with churches, with the town hall, the cloth hall. And by the end of the 15th century, all the Jewish people who lived in Krakow, they settled down in this area here. In Krakow, in the Middle Ages, by the end of the 15th century, there were some conflicts between Jewish and non-Jewish merchants. Usually goods sold by Jews were much cheaper than the same goods sold by anyone else, which caused, of course, anger, jealousy. Finally, by the end of the 15th century, one of our kings said, for your own safety and to avoid future conflicts, you should leave the capital and you should move to this town here. So, they had to obey the order of the king. They moved. They left Krakow, they moved to Kazimierz. What's very important, this place here, the town of Kazimierz, it was never a ghetto, never a prison for Jews. Here, they had to stay. They had to live, but they were allowed to leave this area, to move to any other part of the country, to move to, to travel wherever they wanted, and also to work wherever they wanted, which means they worked here, or in the non-Jewish part of the town, or in Krakow, or in the Wawel Hill, or any nearby village. The only condition was, if you want to stay close to Krakow, close to the capital, you can't build your house here. You have to build your house in this town here. Distance between Kazimierz and Krakow was maybe like 1 kilometer, which was really nothing. They lived here. They had to live here till the beginning of the 19th century, because in the very beginning of 19th century, these two towns were joined. And when these two towns were joined, Jews were allowed to live wherever they wanted. And our historians say, before World War II, Kazimierz, this part of the town, was rather for very religious families, Orthodox Jewish families, and also for the ones who were rather poor. The old town of Krakow became a place for rich Jewish families, and also more for reformed, for modern Jewish families. And altogether in our city, as you already know, before World War II we had nearly 70,000 Jews, which was 25% of the population of the town. And as you already know, only 5,000 of them survived the war. So this is the place where you're staying, Kazimierz, Jewish part of Kazimierz. We'll have a walk around it later on. The Jewish ghetto, which we're going to see in a moment, the one in the movie is here, because Spielberg filmed everything here. Here, if you look around, all the architecture here is pre-war, original, very well preserved. So that's why for Spielberg it was just easy to film here. So he used this place for his movie. But the real ghetto was never here. There were a few reasons. First of all, this was too close to the center. It was too nice to be the ghetto during the war. And also, remember that Jews lived here for more than 500 years, so they really knew this place too well. Then, Nazis decided to make the ghetto here, in this part of the town, in Podgórze. You can see the name here. Podgórze was industrial part of our city before World War II. Workshops, factories, for example, the Schindler's factory was in Podgórze as well. Podgórze was first of all industrial part of the city, and also if you look at the map you can see that there is a river separating ghetto from the old town. After the invasion, the Nazis decided that this city, Krakow, should become the capital of occupied Poland. We don't really know why. They didn't like Warsaw, which was the capital of the country then. For them, Warsaw was eastern, wild Russian city. We have no idea why, because Warsaw was a beautiful city before World War II. They didn't like it. Nazi historians, made up some stories that, they found out that Krakow had German origins. No idea why, because we never belonged to Germany, but remember, for them everything which was nice, interesting, valuable had German origins. In the 10th century this city was a Czech city, in the 19th it was Austrian but never German. They said it had German origins, and they made Krakow capital of occupied Poland, which means, all the officials, generals with their families moved here. So, remember that they took over, they lived in houses confiscated from some people here in the center. They took this place, this part of the city. So remember, it was a river separating the Nazi clean beautiful area from the ghetto, which was of course poor, small, and there were some diseases and epidemics here during the war. So river separating clean place from the dirty place. So these were the reasons why the ghetto was here across the river. Most important reason was industry, of course. Ghetto was really tiny, 15 streets, 320 houses, and in this area here before World War II we had 3,000 inhabitants. During World War II, from 14 to 20,000 people had to stay in the same area. So, which means the living conditions were really undescribable. You will see them later on in the Schindler's Museum, in the Schindler's Factory. So this is the place where the ghetto was. We're going to stop here on the Ghetto Square. We are going to see later on Lipowa Street. That's the place where the Schindler's Factory was. That's the museum. Now we're going to have a tour there. And also we are going to drive, that way here to see the place, only the place where the concentration camp of Płaszów was. Płaszów, that's the camp which you remember from the movie, the one with the very cruel commandant Amon Good. Amon Good was the one who was shooting from his window to his prisoners just for fun. So that's, what we have to see today, what we should see today. Of course, later on, if we still have time, if you're still, strong enough to walk more, then we'll also, see some parts of the old town. But that will be later on, I guess, after, all the tours, all the visits, and after the lunch break, I guess. Okay.